Hello, and welcome to our session on empowering business users with AI-driven insights in Microsoft Fabric. If that's not the title of the session you thought you were coming to, you might want to leave now, but that is what we'll be talking about today. My name is 𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗻𝗃𝗲, and I am a Principal Product Manager at Microsoft.
And I am Shenhav, and I am Group Product Manager here at Microsoft.
And today we're excited to talk to you about some of the AI experiences and capabilities within Microsoft Fabric. We'll specifically be focusing on the chat with your data experiences in Power BI, but covering a couple of other Fabric experiences as well. So today, Microsoft Fabric creates the perfect platform for AI to be built on. We have our OneLake, our security and governance, and Copilot, the platform at the base that allows for these AI experiences within different parts of Fabric to be successful. We have a couple of different buckets in which we have our AI-powered experiences in Fabric. The first is the Copilot accelerated experiences, which I'll be covering what that means in a second. Then we'll cover our chat with your data experience, which is specific to Power BI and Fabric data agents, and then we'll go over some of the data agent custom AI solutions as well. So first, what does it mean to be a Copilot integrated experience? So these experiences are integrated all over Microsoft Fabric. You can use Copilot in Data Factory, for data science, for real-time intelligence, data warehouses, and of course in Power BI. So what can Copilot do specifically in Power BI today? There's a couple of different capabilities that we have available in both general availability and public preview, and we're constantly shipping more experiences that we'll give a sneak peek and preview on a little bit later in the session. So first, you can use Copilot to write DAX. Now, I've been working in the Power BI space for about 7 years now, and I know from customer feedback that one of the main things that we always heard is how hard DAX is. If any of you have ever used the Copilot experience with DAX, it's one of my personal favorites. It's incredible how much easier it makes it to be able to write DAX and create measures so that you can build your Power BI reports. Copilot can also help you build those reports. So you can use the Copilot chat experience to build visuals, build reports, and it helps you get started in that report creation process. You can also use Copilot in Power BI to summarize the data within your reports or your apps, and also to draw insights, or what we like to call chat with your data, to ask a question about your data and get additional insights and answers so that you can continue to use AI to help you make better business decisions. Now, all of these experiences help a plethora of users. So whether it's an executive who wants to get those insights from Copilot, if you're in finance or marketing and you want to utilize AI to help you understand your data better, if you are building the reports and you're in IT, Copilot within Microsoft Fabric is here for all different types of users. We did a study about a year ago that also showed and proved how Copilot helped users. So those that actually used Copilot found that their answers of their data analysis was more accurate and that they were actually able to complete tasks faster. And 90% of those that were surveyed said that they were likely to adopt Copilot. Now again, this study was done in 2024. We've come a long way since then, so I expect these numbers to be even higher now if we were to redo this study today. But it definitely summarized that those who tried out and used Copilot had a positive experience and would continue wanting to invest in that experience to make their work days easier. So I'm now going to turn the time over to my colleague Maya to dive a little bit deeper into what the chat with your data experience means and how you can use that within Copilot to enable your business users to get more from their data.
Thank you, Lauren. All right, so let's start talking about chat with your data and understand exactly what do we mean when we say chat with your data. So chat with your data basically is kind of an umbrella term that we are using to describe AI-driven experiences that let you use natural language to query your data and get instant insights, summaries, and data visualizations from Copilot. Think about it as your virtual data analysts that chat with you about your data. And that analyst has access to the same Power BI content that you have access to. So it understands your reports, semantic models, apps, and even Fabric data agents if you have access to it. It also knows how to generate ad hoc data visualizations for you. So in addition to get answers about your data, you also is able to get more context and some more insights that it generates for you when you chat with him. And later on, Lauren will show you how you can walk and prepare your semantic models and reports for Copilot Chat with Your Data to better understand your content. And when we think about what Chat with Your Data Copilot can do for you, so there is a broad spectrum of data questions that users typically ask. It can be from the left side of the spectrum, simple data retrieval questions, usually about data that you can find in reports. So if you have a report and there are some visualizations, you sometimes want to ask questions about that. But on the other end of the spectrum, there are the deep research questions that typically requires data analysts to do some work before you're able to get answers. And with Chat with Your Data, our goal is basically to cover that entire spectrum. But we know that we are still not there. As LLM improve and Copilot gets better and better, we are able to serve more and more types of questions that customers are asking Copilot. So if you tried Chat with Your Data Copilot, like I think a year ago, and it wasn't that great, give it another try, because we are innovating on that space every month or so and releasing new and new features. So give it a try and see what Copilot can do for you in that space now. All right, so the first experience that I wanted to show you and demo you is our hero experience. We call it the standalone Copilot. And why standalone? Because it is a full screen experience that allows you to chat with your data across all of your Power BI content. You do not need to first pick an artifact before you can ask questions about it. The standalone Copilot allows you to just start chatting with it. So let's see that demo. This is standalone Copilot, and I can start broad with typing my question and just sending it to Copilot. And Copilot is able to understand the context of my question and find the relevant item to bring the data for me. But if I will ask Copilot a question that is a bit vague, Copilot not necessarily be able to answer that, and will ask me to give him some clarification. So in that case, because I asked something like I'm looking for insight about travel, and this is very, very vague, I need to give more clarification to Copilot, and once I provide that, you can see that Copilot generated that visual for me, or actually identify verified answer, and bring me the answer back. Next, I'm asking about a summary, and Copilot is smart enough to understand that it is still related to the same report that I used before. And if I want Copilot to work on a specific report and not search for content for me, I can even attach a report to my prompt, and in that case, Copilot will look for the answer on that report that I have attached. Those of you who used the standalone Copilot in the past might notice that the experience that I just showed you in the demo was a bit different than what you might remember. And that's because we changed the way and improved the way that Copilot actually have a chat with you. At first, when you started chatting with Copilot, Copilot listed to you 3 items to pick which item you want Copilot to reason over. But now we made Copilot smarter and more conversational, and instead of asking you which item you want it to use, then Copilot is now able to make that decision by itself and actually bring you the answer directly. And as we could see at the demo, if the question was not clear enough and Copilot needs more clarification, it will just ask for it. So it will chat with you and ask for more and more clarification until it will have enough information to bring you the answer directly. Another thing that is coming soon and is improving in the service is that we are bringing Copilot to the Power BI homepage. So now when you land on Power BI homepage, you can engage with Chat with Your Data Copilot directly from the homepage. You can just type in your question or your search prompt, and Copilot will start working for you, bring you the insights that you were looking for directly from the homepage. In my case here, I was asking Copilot to look for some content for me. So if we're talking about search, let's look at the behind the scene and understand how search actually works with Chat with Your Data. So when you're asking Copilot some question, Copilot runs some semantic search, obviously, to search for your content. But in addition to looking at the content itself, what Copilot also does, it looks at some specific signals that help it to boost some content over the other and actually favorite some content and select that on your behalf. And what are those signals? So first of all the endorsement signals. So if you have content that is certified or promoted or tagged as approved for Copilot, Copilot will prefer those artifacts over those who do not have those certification. In addition, Copilot will look also on recency and the items that you're viewing lately, and will again prefer items that you are usually using in Power BI over those you never opened, for example. So that's how search works. Next, once Copilot has an item that it knows that it can reason over, the next thing that Copilot needs to do is actually understand what is the user intent. What exactly does the user want to achieve? Is it a summary type of a question, or is it a data answer? And based on that actually set the next step. If we are looking for data answers, so for data answer we have multiple data answering strategies, and you can see here in the slide the logic that we operate between those strategies. So we start with verified answers, and Lauren later will explain a bit more what verified answer is, but think about it as an answer to a frequently asked question that you, as an author, decided that when someone asks that question, this is the answer that you want Copilot to use. So we will favor, again, verified answer as the first answering strategy. But if there is no verified answer that is matching the user request, then the next thing that we will be doing is we will look at the report visuals to see if in that report there is something in the visuals that can answer the user question. Remember that spectrum that we saw a few slides ago? So that's if the question is one of the questions from the left side of the spectrum, the simple one, that's the answering strategy that we'll probably be using. Next, if we couldn't find any proper visual to use, we will look at the semantic model and see if we can auto-generate visualization and answer based on the semantic model. And lastly, if none of these is suitable, then we will create ad hoc DAX query and query the semantic model directly. And believe me, the DAX queries that Copilot generates, they are state-of-the-art. So if you are working with Copilot Chat with Your Data and you see an answer and it has a piece of DAX, now you can understand why that happened and what didn't work in terms of answering strategies. Okay, so now that we understood how Chat with Your Data works, let's see where else we can enjoy Chat with Your Data. And that's the scoped experiences. The first experience is actually in apps. We know that many of our business users are not even going to Power BI homepage. They are usually land directly inside of a Power BI app, and that's all they care about. So for that type of users, we have Copilot as part of the app, and Copilot in that scenario is actually scoped to the scope of the app. So in terms of capabilities, it has the exact same capabilities as the standalone Chat with Your Data Copilot, but it is a scoped experience to the app itself. Another scope experience is actually Copilot in reports. So when you're using Chat with Your Data Copilot in report, then the scope of the questions that you can get answers for is limited to that report. And let's not confuse Copilot Chat with Your Data in reports, that's the experience you're getting when you're viewing a report. If you're authoring a report, the Copilot that you are interact with in that scenario is actually a different one that has more capabilities like creating visuals or new report pages. This is not the Chat with Your Data Copilot, it is actually the report pane Copilot available in edit mode. All right. But there are more experiences for Chat with Your Data even outside of Power BI. If you are like me and you spend most of your day in Teams, in meetings and chats, you probably use the Power BI app in Teams. And Copilot Chat with Your Data is also available in that app. So you do not have to go to Power BI service in order to enjoy Chat with Your Data. You can also enjoy it from your Teams app as well. And if you are on the go and you decided that you must chat with your data while you are away from your desktop, on your way home, in the train, on your way to meet a customer, so I'm very, very, very happy to share with you that we are now releasing a new update to the Power BI mobile apps that has Copilot Chat with Your Data integrated in it. So those of you who do not have the Power BI mobile app installed on their phone, I really invite you to go to your favorite app store and get Power BI mobile app and start chatting with your data. Actually do it next week because we are rolling out and it will take some time, but from next week you will have Chat with Your Data standalone Copilot in the mobile app. Let's see the demo. Let's see if the clicker will work. Okay, so you can see here that I have a new Copilot button here at the footer of my app, and once I tap on it, I get this chat experience where I can just type in any data question that I have. You can still see here the old experience with a list of items, but that will change very, very soon. And once I pick the item that I want, let's see, Copilot generates the answer for me. It is textual and visual, and if I'll tap on the visual, I'll get that interactive experience that I can get better insights about my data. I can use share to share that visual with my colleagues, or copy to copy and share that answer with everyone I want. And those of you who have iOS device, iPhone or iPad, you can also use the mic in order to engage with Copilot. So instead of typing, you can just dictating your question to Copilot, and Copilot actually listens and is able to give you the answers right away. Same experience, just with voice. All right, but this is not all. What else we can do? You don't have to use the experience that we built. You can build your own chat with your data experience, because we are also announcing a public preview of MCP server for Chat with Your Data. So if you have an MCP client or you want to build your own, you can use it. In this demo, you can see Visual Studio Code as my MCP client that is connected to MCP server for Chat with Your Data, and all I had to do is to attach the semantic model, send my prompt, and you can see that the client now runs Chat with Your Data flow. It started with getting the semantic model schema, and then to generate the query, and afterwards we will see that it is actually executing the query and bringing me the answer back. So you don't have to use the experience we are building, even though they're awesome. You can also build your own experience. But this is not all. We have one more experience to talk about, and many of you that came to the booth yesterday were actually asking about that. And this is the Chat with Your Data experience that we are bringing to M365 Copilot chat. This is the Power BI agent that we are now starting a private preview for. So let me show you how that agent looks like. And those of you who would like to join the private preview, I have a link for you to request access. All right. So this is M365. This is where most of us spending our day. We say we're spending time in Teams, but also in M365. And I start with just, asking some question about Java products. And I'm asking what we call mainline Copilot, not necessarily Power BI. So Copilot runs over all my content and brings some information from my Word documents and Excel files and so forth. But if I need information coming from structured data that I know that exists in Power BI, I can just mention or add the Power BI agent into that conversation and ask it to answer my data question. So in this case, which products have the highest complaint rate? And let's see what Copilot tells me. Again, it shows me a list. This will change pretty soon. And once I pick the item that I want, you can see that the Power BI agent brings here to M365 the same experience that we saw inside of the Power BI service. You can see the visualizations. You can see how Copilot arrived at this to get some more confident that you are actually getting the information that you intended to get. Next, I can also ask Copilot to, to tell me if there is any correlation between product sentiments and complaint rate to see if there is something that I can learn from it. And Copilot again offered me a scatter chart to understand better the correlation between the two measures. I can continue and ask Copilot to generate a summary for me and tell it that I want the summary to be focused on sentiment and customer satisfaction and sentiment. You remember the flow, the slide with the flow that we saw at the beginning? So this is where Copilot understands that the intent is actually a summary rather than a data question. And all of that I can do directly from M365. So business users will not have to go to Power BI to get instant insights about their data. They can use their natural environment in M365 to get those insights integrated in their workflow. So those of you who want to join the private preview, we're starting the private preview in 2 weeks. Please follow that link, fill up the form, and we will be contacting you next week, giving you more details. And Lauren, thank you.
Thanks, Maya. That was a fantastic overview of some of the experiences that we have with Power BI, giving you the ability to chat with your data and helping you to really empower your end users to utilize the power of AI to make better business decisions. Now, one of the most often questions that we get on the Power BI team when it comes to AI and chat with your data is, how do we prepare our customers or our organization for these chat with your data experiences? Power BI, Fabric, it's been around. There are lots of years of data and semantic models being created, and now we're bringing in this AI experience into your tenant or into your customers' organizations or your organization. What do you do with the models that are already created? How do you optimize them? How do you make your organization prepared for this AI capability and to allow you to chat with your data? And so I'm going to be covering how to optimize your Copilot experience and specifically how to get your semantic models ready to be used with our chat with your data experience. So first and foremost, we've been saying this for years, even before AI, but the best thing that you can do for your models, especially in the AI age, is to make sure that you have good, clean semantic models that are following best practices. Make sure you have that star schema, that you have names that Copilot will be able to recognize. So this is where it might get a little bit different. Previously, you might have naming conventions that are specific to your organization but aren't necessarily readable by natural language. So the more that Copilot can understand your underlying data from a natural language standpoint, the better results that you're going to get with Copilot. And also making sure that you are doing these best practice things like adding in descriptions. There are multiple Copilot experiences within Power BI that utilize the descriptions that you've put on your model, on the different fields, that will help Copilot to be able to get better and more accurate answers. Now, once you have that good, clean model, this is where we've also introduced a set of capabilities to take this one step further and help you really optimize your semantic models and therefore your reports on top of that and your Power BI apps to be ready to chat with your data and have these AI experiences. So we understand that even if you have the best model in the world, there are underlying experiences where Copilot might not understand your org's definitions, or you might want to give it instructions on which measures or which tables it should prioritize when users are asking questions. So I'm going to go over some of the experiences that we recently shipped to help accelerate your experience of getting your data ready and making those models ready for AI. So this suite of experience is called Prep Your Data for AI, and it allows you to configure and ground your semantic models to help with the Copilot experience. Now in Power BI Desktop today, next to the Copilot button, you can now see this Prep Data for AI button. And when you click on that button, it's going to open a dialog that introduces 3 new features and functionalities that help you to simplify your data schema, add what we call verified answers, and also add AI instructions on your model as well. Now, this set of capabilities and features we launched in public preview in May. We recently, in the last less than 2 months, so beginning of October, we also released the capability to allow you to use these features to prep your data for AI on the web, so in the Power BI service as well. And why this is important is that within desktop, you can prep your data on import models, on composite models, on direct query. But if you're using Direct Lake, then you need to use the experience on the web today. So utilizing the Prep Data for AI features on the web allows you to prep your models for Direct Lake, and it also allows you to do all of this prep without having to then publish that model in Power BI Desktop up to the service. So it makes that experience of testing out what the response with chat with your data is, and then going back and tweaking your prep data features a little bit simpler and easier by doing it on the web. So now let's go over those 3 features that I mentioned, and I'm going to give a more detailed explanation of what they mean and how they're going to help you to have the best model possible to be able to make the experience higher quality and the answers more accurate and reliable. So the first is that schema selection. What this does is it allows you to reduce the schema that Copilot will look at when users are chatting with it. So you might have a massive model, you might have created measures to help build visuals that when your users are chatting with their data might not necessarily be something that you want them to be getting the answers from, or you want to reduce the scope of what Copilot is looking at so that it doesn't have to look at so much data. It's a really narrow, a more narrowed set of what you need. And this is going to help you, your users or Copilot to have more accuracy because it has a narrower set of what part of your schema to look at. So this is you as the model author setting this schema. This is not for end users to do. The model author will set what schema Copilot can see and access, but then it will apply any time that a user is asking questions on this semantic model or any reports that are built off of this semantic model. We also have something that's called verified answers. Similar names for this is something like a few shot used in some other products. But what this is doing is this is allowing you to have a human in the loop to help ground Copilot to get more accurate answers as well. So you're able to select a visual on a report canvas and tie that visual to a specific trigger phrase or a question that a user might ask to have the verified answer returned. So essentially you're saying when a user asks about sales for this product, use this visual to answer it. So now you have a bit more control over how Copilot's going to respond, and you can have more trust in the answers that Copilot is giving because there is that human in the loop to help ground Copilot and have your users be able to see what is that verified answer. And Maya talked about that a little bit when she went over the flow of how Copilot works in chat with your data and how when a user asks a question, the first thing we do is we match to see if there is a verified answer on that semantic model or any reports that are built off of that semantic model, and we'll return that verified answer. So what does this actually look like in the product? On a visual, you can have the ellipses, click on that visual and click on Set Up Verified Answer. It'll automatically bring you into this UI screen for Prep Data for AI, where you can then set trigger phrases. You can use Copilot suggested trigger phrases, and anything that a user asks that is semantically similar to that trigger phrase that's set is then considered a verified answer that you have set on your model that's going to return if the user asks something similar. Now, we have a couple of best practices that we want to share with you for using these verified answers. The first is that around 5 to 7 trigger phrases or prompts is the sweet spot that we have found for setting on your verified answers to get the best results. Now, it's also limited to specific visual types. So for example, some of our visuals, like a decomposition tree, you can't set a verified answer on today, but I'd encourage you to go look at our documentation. We have all of this thoroughly outlined for what you can and cannot use and what's supported with a verified answer. Another thing of note is the verified answer is stored on the model. So even though you're grabbing the visual from a report canvas, whatever model is used to build that report, that's where the verified answer is going to be stored. And then lastly, we've actually just recently shipped new capabilities to help support more filtering types with verified answers. So previously, when you set a verified answer, it only takes into account the visual filter that you have set on that visual that you're using for the verified answer. Now you can also, when you set that verified answer, you can support slicers, cross-filtering and cross-highlighting, and field parameters. So it's going to be even more accurate for you to use today, and so we're just continuing to enhance our verified answers capability to make sure that your data is really prepped and ready for the Copilot experiences. Now, the last experience that we have shipped within Prep Data for AI features is what we call AI instructions. So this essentially is your final step after you have reduced that schema for Copilot to see and you have taken the time to set those verified answers. Anything that's left that Copilot needs to understand, you can add through AI instructions. Now this is unstructured data. This is just a text box that you are adding instructions to Copilot. Some of the things that work really well here are giving directions to Copilot on this type of questions asked by a user, point to this measure or this table, giving it more context that just from looking at data, Copilot might not understand. So if there's business terms in your organization that your users will likely be using when asking questions about their data that aren't exactly one-to-one mapped with what the data is in your semantic model, defining some of those terms here. Or for example, if there's a number in your organization that the more negative it is, that's actually a positive thing. You can give that type of instruction to Copilot to say, hey, the lower this number goes down, make sure to answer questions to users when they're chatting with their data, understanding that that's actually a good thing. So there is a character limit on what you can do today with AI instructions, but you have 10,000 characters to give to your model to really help Copilot with that last stretch of what context it needs to really have the data be ready to be used with chat with your data. And again, our documentation has even more tips than what's on this slide for how you can utilize these instructions to really get your data ready. Now, we've also introduced this setting called Approved for Copilot. This previously was called Prep for AI, so if you've seen the Prep for AI setting, we just renamed this, just barely shipped this new naming within our product as of, I believe, this Monday, so it's very new. But what this setting does, that was previously called Prep for AI and is now called Approved for Copilot, is after you've done all this, you already have the foundation of a great model that's following star schema, that has great naming. You've gone through and you've prepped your model for AI. You've set verified answers. You've reduced the schema. You've added instructions, etc. You've gone through and tested it yourself. Now your model is ready. You feel comfortable and confident for users in your organization to go and chat with this model or reports built off of this model. So you can go and mark it as approved for Copilot. And that's going to give a signal to the standalone experience that, like Maya mentioned, it's going to rank things higher. So when users are searching for content, if something is marked as approved for Copilot, it'll have higher relevancy, and it will make it so it's more likely to be returned in the search result. Now, another thing is within the standalone experience, if something is not marked as approved for Copilot, when a user asks a question on that item, they'll actually get a warning that says, hey, this item is not actually approved for Copilot in your organization. Do you still want to see the answer? So it's another guardrail in place so that you can feel very confident about how users in your organization are interacting with AI. And they're getting this warning saying you can still get the answer if you want, but just so you know, it hasn't actually been signed off and approved by someone in your organization. Now, we've taken this even one step further. So in the tenant admin settings, we have a setting that allows you to scope the searchable content in that standalone full screen experience to only be items that have this setting applied to them. So you can only show approved items in the standalone Copilot experience in Power BI if they have that setting on it. So this is another way that you can make sure and feel confident about what your users in your organization are seeing and using with your chat with your data experiences, because it gives you additional control over that standalone experience, and the setting allows you to feel more comfortable and confident. Now, I do want to caveat that users can always attach an item. So this setting applies to the search capability. When they ask a question and we're going to go find the data that they need to answer, that's where this is applied. But even if something's not marked as approved, they could still go and attach that item if they're sure that that's what they want to use to get the answer from, and they would still be able to get that answer, but it will still show up with that warning sign saying this isn't approved for Copilot within your organization. So that's really a lot of the features that we have shipped around how to best prepare your models to be ready for AI. I'm going to now go into some of the general best practices and frequently asked questions that we get for the Power BI Copilot experiences. So first is try and be descriptive to help Copilot better understand you. Rather than just saying, show me sales, if you can help Copilot explain what you define as sales in your organization, the better you can explain and describe to Copilot, the more accurate your answers and your results will be. The next is to steer Copilot. So add those clarifications, guide Copilot. I think we're all learning in this day and age of AI that understanding prompt engineering and how to get the right answers from AI is becoming an even more important skill than ever. Also ask follow-up questions. So as you're interacting with Copilot, if it doesn't give you the right answer, try and clarify. Ask it questions so that you can understand how to best do that prompt engineering to get the best answer from chat with your data as possible. Always understand this is an LLM, so it might use some ungrounded reasoning, but again, that natural language is really where LLMs shine. So using natural language combined with your data is going to give you those best results. We do also want to point out that we follow really strict responsible AI guidelines and guardrails. So if anything is offensive, you might see an error returned with Copilot. That is always going to be by design. And then also on the output that Copilot gives you, you might notice this little thumbs up, thumbs down. That's actually really important. Our team on the Power BI side, we look at the data that comes back to us from the thumbs up, thumbs down, and you can also add in details of why you gave the answer that you did. We are getting that at Microsoft as feedback, and we look at that every single day within our team, within our executives, to understand what's working in the Copilot experience, what could be improved, and we take that feedback very seriously to improve the experience so that we can continue to build a product that's going to meet you and your organization's needs. We also have some known limitations. We are still really early in the AI experience in general and at Microsoft with Copilot. Now, it's exponentially getting better, but we do have some of those limitations. So one of those is delays on capacity consumption. So when you're scaling up or purchasing new capacity, Copilot might have a delay in the capability showing up. So just be aware of that. It can sometimes take up to 24 hours for Copilot to become active. The next is the limited language support. When we go to conferences in other countries, this question comes up a lot. Today, Copilot is only officially supported in English. It is an LLM model, so some questions it does pretty well at in other languages, but as far as the features and capabilities we have, it is only officially supported with English today. And then there's also some throttling and capacity consumption things to be aware of. If a lot of requests are being made within your organization or on your tenant at the same time, then on occasion, Copilot might end up throttling experiences, but that's also something that we're actively doing a lot of work on to improve. Next is the filter limitation. So the filters within Copilot are static and they only apply to the visual that it generates. So if you want more interactive filtering, like for example, slicers or the filter pane, you still have to add those manually through the Explore capability. So what we mean is answers that you get on filtering, they're a bit limited with Copilot today, but we're also working on enhancing those, as well as when you use the Create Copilot experience, there's some limited filtering capability there as well when creating visuals and reports. Next is embedding and report type instructions. So today, Copilot is not supported for paginated reports or for pass embed scenarios, but I would say stay tuned for those. We're also investigating and looking into bringing those capabilities to the chat with your data experience as well. And then the last thing here is not all of Copilot is generally available. So today, the report pane that Maya went over, where if you're on a report and you open up that side pane to either create visuals or chat with your data on that specific report, that is generally available today. Our full screen standalone experience we released in public preview in May. So that's still a public preview experience. Some of the data factory, data engineering experiences are also public preview. So just be aware that there's a mix today between what we have generally available versus what our public preview experience is on their way to becoming generally available. Now I'm gonna go over a couple of the commonly asked questions that we get on the Power BI Copilot team. And the first is often around, where is my data going? We know that there are a lot of concerns or just security is really important to your organizations. Of course it is. And so your data is being processed according to those geo and region rules of Azure. We are not breaking any of those rules. So we have GPUs that support our Power BI cluster for Copilot, and we're not sending data across boundaries, and we're also not storing it anywhere. So when you submit that prompt today, we're not storing your data, we're not training Copilot on your data, none of that is happening. The second is, when will we support other regions? So today we support North America and we also support Europe fully, but there are regions around the world we don't support yet. So we are actively working on plans to support those other regions. We're not 100% sure of the ETA, but we are working on that, as well as our government clouds. We don't currently support that today, but we are looking into how we can bring Copilot to government clouds as well. The next question we often get is, how can I see who's using Copilot in my organization? So this is where audit log usage is super important. You can see who in your organization is using Copilot through our audit logs. And if you use Purview integration in your organization, you can also see more information around who is using Copilot, what that activity is to track and access and monitor through Purview as well. The next question we get often is, can I control who can use Copilot? So yes, it's not a turn on for all of your organization or don't turn on for anybody. You can do a slow rollout in your organization to test, make sure you are comfortable as you expand across the organization. And this is all configurable through the admin portal. And you can set this to security groups if you would like as well. And then the last question that we're going over today that we often get is, I purchased a new capacity, Copilot's not appearing. Again, this is a limitation that we are aware of, that it can sometimes take up to 24 hours for Copilot to be turned on in your organization. So I want to say thank you so much for coming to our session today. We are at time, but I also want to plug that if you have any additional questions, actually I'll leave this slide up as we're running out of time, for what's in public preview, what's releasing, what's on our roadmap. go ahead and screenshot this. You can also find this online. We'll keep our roadmap up to date, but we are also at the Ask the Experts booth in the expo hall. So if you have any additional questions, come find us there. We'll be there today and tomorrow. Come ask us questions. And then also, if you haven't heard of FabCon, we have a conference called FabCon. It's going to be in Atlanta in March. We'd love to see you there to get more in-depth details around not just Copilot, but all of the Fabric experience as well. So thank you so much for coming today, and it was a pleasure.